running down a deep dark abyss. This is Phantom Abyss. Phantom Abyss is a game that is pretty interesting and unique as far as I'm aware. This has you running first person down this super long abyss, kind of dodging obstacles and collecting treasure along the way. Your goal is just to get to the end of the abyss and open that door, and that's where this game is actually really interesting because it will lead you into another abyss. However, each time you find one of these doors, you have a chance of changing the map. The map kind of regenerates itself using a lot of different set pieces. So, although there is a lot of replayability here, you will start to see the same set pieces pop up here and again. And that could give away some of the secret areas because, like I say, you have a lot of treasure and stuff to collect along the way and get to that exit, bringing that treasure home. This game is definitely set to be speedrun. There is, of course, this random effect with each level, but when you know kind of what you're looking for and you're familiar with some of the set pieces, you can really see how the speedrunning urge is there. There's definitely that to bring those kind of players, that pro skill out. And just to assist with that, when you jump into a map, other players that have made it through that abyss will be shown as a ghost running alongside you, which I thought that was actually really interesting because it gives me an idea of where I'm supposed to be going, first of all, but secondly, it allows me to race an opponent as if they were there. Unfortunately, there's no multiplayer whatsoever though. The ghost thing makes me really want a form of multiplayer. If I could play with several friends and we're all kind of trying to race each other to the door, I think that would really be great, but unfortunately it is missing from this title. Your motivation for getting through these maps is somewhat strange. You begin the game talking to a big statue, and the statue represents some sort of deity, but this deity tells you you're stuck in this abyss until you can capture enough totems at the end of each abyss chambers and bring them back to offer that god, and that will allow you to finally be free of the endless abyss. Starting from point A and getting to point B, it doesn't seem very complicated, but there are a range of things that pop up, obstacles if you will, to slow your way through or potentially end your run. It kind of functions as a roguelite that way. You push as far as you can, inevitably you're going to fail, and you will restart back at the beginning. Now, some of these obstacles can be spinning blades, they could be falling pieces from the ceiling that you have to watch out for. There's the kind of classic arrows that shoot out of the wall trick, spikes that come out of the floor. There's a lot of little pieces here and there for you to parkour around, if you will. And I think they did a pretty good job of balancing difficulty with the length of these abysses. You only have 3 hearts, that's generally 3 mistakes you can make, and then you're out of the run to begin way at the start. There's also these kind of interesting mask kind of figures. They're supposed to represent an evil deity that's trying to slow your adventure and end you eventually, but they're really interesting. When you get into the later levels, they follow you no matter where you go, and every so often, 7 or 3 seconds or something of the like, they will shoot a laser beam at you. So that's kind of your only NPC to contend with, other than the level itself. It adds pretty nice difficulty, and I really enjoyed that part. When it comes to rating this game and giving it a score, there's a few things to consider. I think the gameplay loop is actually very fun and very addictive. and when you're on a roll, it's hard to put it down. But the negative side to that is that it is quite repetitive, and although there is a randomization of levels, it doesn't really do a whole lot to change up the atmosphere. It starts to feel quite samey. Speaking about the environments, that kind of brings me to the second thing to consider, the graphical capability of this game. It is not anything spectacular. That's not to say it's hard to look at. I don't believe it's ugly, but it definitely does nothing to stretch my hardware. It is not an example of next-gen capabilities whatsoever. It sort of just gets the job done, but doesn't really excite you further than that. Now, the soundtrack to go along with it is kind of interesting. A little bit low on the energy for my preference, though. If it was something fast-paced and led to the speedrunning, I think that would be a huge get for this. Now, the single player is a lot of fun, but it is only single player, and that's a real big problem for me, because this game seems to be really lent well to the idea of competing with your friends, together or not, through the use of ghosts. That's an interesting idea, but it's not the same as having your friends in the game. That hurts this game a lot, in my opinion. If I'm gonna put a number on this one, I have had a good time with it. I really do enjoy this concept, and I think it is definitely successful. But there's a lot of elements that I want to see worked on, and I don't think it was a complete bullseye on the target in this case. Phantom Abyss gets a 6 from me. Phantom Abyss is satisfying obstacle course action, but it is too simple, repetitive, and no multiplayer.